Okay. Yeah. I'm going to talk about our virtual exchange project, the E3 project, Engineering Expertise Exchange. So for our little presentation today, we have an introduction, who we are, who our students are, what the objectives of the exchange were, the tasks and the implementation during the course, the results and reflections, and of course a little conclusion. And as you can see, I did have a nice little picture as well of a American and French flag. So as I said, I'd introduce who we are. Lynn, I pass it over to you first of all. You want to say a few words about yourself?
Sure. I have been teaching at Middlesex Community College for, I want to say 11 years. And I'm a professor in engineering. I teach engineering science and computer science and technology studies programs. I'm also a program coordinator that coordinating several engineering and technology programs there. And I advise a robotics club at our college. And I'm also a co-advisor of Phi Sigma Kappa, which is the honor society for 2-year college students. I'm a NASA CT Space Grant campus director. I'm also a chair for our college's general education assessment. So that's normally what I do.
What do you do with all your leisure time?
Leisure time, I don't have that much leisure time. But yeah, that's about me. Liz?
Okay, thank you. Well, as you can tell from my accent,
Liz, do you want to talk about you?
Yeah, you can tell from my accent, even though I do have French citizenship, I'm actually British, but I've been in France now for over 30 years. I was coming for just a year after I graduated before going back to the UK to do a master's, and I never went back. So I began teaching at the IUT Cachan in 1994. And I started just as a sort of supply teacher and then got more and more responsibility. And then I was offered a full-time permanent position. And that has now transferred as the French university, as IUT Cachan has become part of the Paris-Saclay big scientific university made up of several different components, different schools. And now I'm based out at Saclay, working for Polytech, which is an engineering school. And my main role is the English coordinator for all the apprenticeship programs, and in particular for the 5th year for the whole of their core subjects. So I'm busy with different kinds of classes, a lot of communication classes, so trying to be as inventive, creative and fun as possible, with the objective of getting these engineers or future engineers to be able to communicate, network and do everything in English. That's me. And I just wanted to add, it was actually Nancy who came up with that, you know, Lynn and I work so well together because we have names that begin with the same letter, the same number of letters. So, you know, we're on the E3 project, but we're L squared. Okay, so that's Lynn and I, and then our students. So Lynn, I'll let you talk a little bit about the students that were involved on the exchange.
So in fall 2020, I had 20 students in my introduction to engineering class. And they are majoring either in our engineering science program or computer engineering technology program. They are I think probably about half and half. Half of them are part-time students, half of them are full-time students. And a great majority of them do work besides the school, besides the courses they're taking. But I don't think many of them, actually very few of them, have work experience directly related to engineering. So they work at it's just those casual jobs, and so, but they're all good students, but they just don't. Many of them have very little time that can be dedicated to their school.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I noticed, Lynn, about your students, they had a very wide range of ages. There were some that were really, really young, and then some that were a lot older than my apprentices, who initially I thought were going to be the older guys on the program. So that made, I thought it made a good mix, in fact.
That's actually a representative population for our community college. A lot of them are not just, just high school graduates. They normally worked for several years. Some of them already worked in one kind of job, and then they wanted to, either upgrade to upper level job, or they want to change to a different job. So yeah, so it's a mix of different age groups.
Mm-hmm. And so I had 20 students too. They were all approximately the same age in their final year of their engineering diploma. So because it's their final year of their 5 years of studying, then these guys have had 3 years of working for a French company, because their status is they're all trainee engineers, and they've got to have a contract with a company, and it's that company that finances their studies. And they have 4 different majors, so either electrical engineering, material science, optronics, or IT, computer science guys. So we had a bit of a mixed bag of specialists in the group. So now if I move on to the objectives of the exchange that we had to think about clearly and define. The first one was, of course, to collaborate. To work successfully within their group. The group, they were ended up being in groups of 4, so 2 French students with 2 American counterparts, so working well together to be, of course, respectful online citizens, learning about the different tools, technology that they could use. And of course, as they all had this common theme of being engineers, to think about what communicating as an engineer is. So different forms of communication, and keeping it within the structure, in the framework of their future careers. I just noticed there's things popping up in the chat. Am I missing any questions?
No, we were just welcoming Chantal.
Oh, I can't see. Oh, okay. Hello, Chantal.
Bienvenue.
So, hello. I may not be able to say the whole session, but I'm really interested in seeing how you communicate about your projects. Okay?
Hi, Chantal.
Hi.
Hi, great. Okay, Lynn, would you like to say a little bit more about the tasks now, the 3 tasks?
Sure.
At least the first one.
Actually, it's probably easier if we combine this with the next slide, which is our schedule. Do you want to move on to that? So we have a team building. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. So within that, so this is just to provide a
team building.
Example of the previous slide. Sorry. Just want to talk about this in the schedule, so that actually the 3 activities incorporated into our schedule. Slide number 7. Yeah, thank you. So in the beginning, if you look at, we have 4 live sessions, and those are some of the activities built into my kind of introduction to engineering course. The first is, they have the Liz students prepared elevator speech, ice-breaking, and introduction activities. So that's our initial team building activity. And then the intermediate project we have is to have Lynn's students to review and comment on Liz students' blogs. Because Liz students, they have already had that assignments for writing blogs. And then so my students will just, look through all the blogs and kind of review those blogs and make comments on those web pages, websites. And then the final project we had was to have students to work in groups and research on topics and write scripts and develop and complete the video projects. So it's group videos. Eventually they need to present their videos to everybody. So that's our final project. Since we're on this page, yeah, basically, Liz, do you want to say something about previous slide, or?
No, that's fine. I'll let you carry on with this because it's your program.
No, this is my schedule. So the thing is, when I distribute this, so this is part of my syllabus. So they kind of can see from this schedule, they know about the topics that will be covered during the class related to our engineering topics. So the second column and also the click activities is kind of put side by side. So they have a general idea on, they know what are the days they're supposed to do live with their French partners, and some of the homework due. That is all listed. I found this very useful in terms of when they're double check on the due dates for the assignments. Sometimes it could lose track because they're like two separate kind of activities. But with this schedule, they kind of was good on track.
Yeah, it was really good to use the colors. I remember in the planning stages when we had the different colors of whether it was an activity that it was your students, my students, they were doing together. It really helped. So that was good. Okay, so shall we move on then? So this is then after the first live session when the French students had introduced themselves, they'd done their little elevator speeches, and then the Americans were able to ask questions and there were lots of comments flying around. It was a real light-hearted, but such enthusiasm and energy in that first live session. If you remember, Lynn, it was great. Yeah. I mean, the comments just were flying everywhere. And if I can just say that we had the advantage, if you can say that we were lucky at that time at the end of September that we were having classes on site. So the 20 students and myself were all in one big classroom together. So and watching live on a video projector. So that was good. So then the next step was, of course, after the initial introductions was for the groups to put themselves, to form themselves, depending on their interests. And for the major subjects, So as I said, two American with 2 French students. And then we gave each group a number so we could take care, you know, we could follow who was with who. And also I think on this picture, you've also got the blog addresses of the French students too. So we had a record. Everybody had all the information. So,
yeah, this also helps the, you know, help with the grouping, because our students are relatively not that, how do I say that? Because your students already have majors. Our students, they're all like in general engineering major kind of thing. So initially we were wondering how to put students into groups, right? So, and eventually we actually did. We had your students to form a 2-person team first. Once they're there, and then our students will be able to, based on their major, try to, you know, put their names into each of those groups. But that actually went quite smoothly.
It did,
think.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think that was...
just within a couple of days, we already have our 10 groups there. So
yeah.
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that just shows you that, and the willingness on both sides as well to form a team, I think, because I remember we were a little anxious of how easy that would be. Would we end up having to put people into groups? But no, it all happened just fluidly. So yeah, great. So if we move on then, now, after I haven't got examples of the student blogs to show you, or the video scripts which they worked together, and in fact they did a really good job of the English, for surprisingly in the video scripts was almost correct when I saw any versions of it. So they'd obviously worked well together to have a good script to begin. And then the final task was then to film and edit, put together their videos on a specific engineering topic. So you can see from linker page the group numbers, and some of them created little icons. I do like this one for group 10, little cartoon images of the 4 members of the group. And they used the linker page to then post their final video, so that we had a place where we could go and watch them as many times as we wanted, or other people could watch and comment on them too.
And this was great to you know, give feedback on all the scripts. So I checked with my students. They said, "Well, please send." You emailed them, right, with the correct script. So that's great.
Yeah. That's something I'm sort of familiar with doing. So it's always interesting to see their ideas, and of course the common typical mistakes that they can make. But as I said, I think they'd proofread them anyway before they sent them. And some more examples. So the different topics that they chose. We had, I think the first video, they were so keen to show us their video, was the cement making, concrete, and about how keys were, the history of keys and how keys are made, which seemed a very simple topic, but in fact it was one of my favorites, to be honest. So yeah, I enjoyed that. Electric cars, 3D printing, nuclear energy, and a very original one of ways to help people, like superheroes, the Avengers, which was fun. And I think they had fun filming it too.
What was the one where it was for like a boat at sea, when instead of just the simple life jacket, they had a very fancy survival kind of in the water.
Yeah, that was the Avengers one with Lucy and Isabel, and yeah, the different ways of saving people, how to save the world. So after the video production and that we had the chance to showcase the videos, then we asked the students to reflect, to think deeply about the project. And we got some really interesting feedback, I think, Lynn. I mean, varied feedback and varied lengths, and some of the weaker English students in France didn't go into quite so much detail, but it was all very positive.
Yeah, I just want to mention that for the first reflection question was because the video project was graded individually. So we wanted to understand how each group member contributed to their group project. So they actually, their feedback actually quite detailed, and a lot of them, make specific comment on particular group member.
Mm-hmm.
So members. So that's actually give us a better idea on how to, grade students' project. Yeah. The second reflection question basically, help us understand how the course fulfill the learning objectives we set up in the beginning. So they actually fill in specifically what they learned on that particular objective. And those are actually two examples from American students, and next page are two examples from French students. It's quite interesting if you look at what they wrote for the first feedback on the first table. That was like, some of them are sarcastic, but some of them actually, try to reflect on what they have learned. So it's really, it's fun to read all their writings. So
yeah, that's
those are two students from French students. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so they were definitely very interesting. I mean, for us to read afterwards. Oh, okay. Sorry, I've gone very quickly. I think just to conclude about this first virtual exchange experience, that we can see how useful, how important it's been for our students, and how much they've learned from it, and the enthusiasm for this kind of project. I think obviously in the current situation, but even when travel does become more accessible again, that this kind of exchange is just so good on so many levels. Obviously this has been with great thanks to, Nancy, and to all the work that Alexa and Sarah have done to help us bring this project to fruition. So personally, after talking about how well it all ran at Polytech Paris-Saclay, there has been a decision voted for my students' final report that they're going to add a section about the importance of this international exchange. And this is going to then be a separate credit on their actual diploma, because normally in normal times, as part of a French engineering diploma, they have to have what we call an international titus, which means for the apprentices to do 8 weeks internship in a foreign country, working in a foreign company. Of course, that hasn't been possible for the last year. So for my 20 students in the E3 project, provided they write good reflection in French in their report, then they'll get the international credit on their diploma. So that's a real added value bonus for them that they weren't even expecting, because it's only been decided very recently and the students only found out last week.
Wow, congratulations.
Yes,
Félicitations.
really, yeah.
So that's good. And that was with the support of Dima Rodriguez as well. So we wondered how we could make this experience, make it stand out, and not just because they got a good grade in the option. I'm satisfied with the way that that's progressing now at Polytech Paris-Saclay. So Lynn, do you have anything else that?
That's great, excellent. So when Liz told me this last week, when we kind of putting together the slides, I was like, oh, great, that's really good for you, for your students, excellent. I think my students certainly expand their experience working with international students. That can be told from their reflections, and I think they have very little experience working in the engineering field. That's why they benefit from talking to French students who already have rich experience in working with that company. And especially that I found as a teacher that because my students are community college students, they are more good with hands-on manufacturing field, and something that they have a family business, or they're good with something that hands-on. So we can tell from some of the video projects they made, if it's a 3D printer, they're good at, if it's like theoretical vision learning or artificial intelligence, and they're not very good. So that's more theoretical engineering. I think French students are ahead of, at least my students are first 2-year students, and your students are, they have already several years of theoretical engineering background. So when they talk together, they actually can supplement, each other's knowledge and background. So that's really a good exchange, I think.
So yes, so thank you very much to everybody who was involved, and big thank you, of course, to Lynn, that we worked really well together.
Yeah, we're thinking about continuing our working relationship into the future years.